Good evening. In previous session, we have seen the concept of pickling and unpickling, and in before sessions, we have seen about the concept of file handling. So from today's session onwards, we are going to see about object-oriented programming in Python. So before going to see the concepts of object-oriented programming in Python, let us discuss what is meant by object-oriented programming and what are the basic things we have to know before going into our object-oriented programming. Let us see now. So our concept is object oriented programming. Object oriented programming. So in shortcut, we will call this one as OOPS. Okay, OOPS or OOP we can call it. So now in this mainly we have to discuss about class and object. So first we have to understand what is meant by a class and what is meant by an object, because our concept is what object oriented programming. So here first we have to understand what is meant by an object. If you want to understand about an object, compulsory we have to understand about a class. So first I will discuss what is meant by a class and what is meant by an object. Later I will go to other concepts. So okay, anyway, now first I will take a real time example. In that I will show you a scenario of object oriented programming. Okay, real time example I will take. So right here, now see here, now here one person is there and here one more person is there. For example, here person name is Hari, here girl name is Sweetie. For example, she is from Hyderabad and he is from Vijayawada. For example, now for example, tomorrow is Valentine's Day. There is Feb 4th. Tomorrow, for example, I am going to take tomorrow is Feb 4th. So now from Vijayawada, this particular Hari want to send a bouquet to this Sweetie in Hyderabad. What he has to do? Listen carefully. First, he will go to his nearest bouquet shop. Okay, there will be a shop, and here one more person is there. What is the name of this person? For example, Ramu. Okay, he is what? Florist. Okay, florist in Vijayawada. So what he will say? Will he buy the bouquet from him and will he send the bouquet through a courier? No. What he will do means, just he will tell, Hari will tell to Ramu that please I want to send some bouquet to a particular person in Hyderabad, in Amirpet. For example, she is staying at Amirpet. Okay, so a person who is staying at Amirpet, I want to send a bouquet. So Hari will tell to Ramu. Now what Ramu will do? So he will write the address here to where I have to send. He will write the address here. So he will pay the money to Ramu and he will leave. Now observe here. Now whose responsibility is to send the bouquet from one person to other person? It is responsibility of Ramu. Okay, now observe what he will do. Will he take the bouquet from Vijayawada and he will send to Hyderabad? No. What he will do means, he will call the other person. He will call other person who is named as Venu. He is also florist in Hyderabad. Okay, so what he will do? Just he will call the florist and he is going to tell some message. That is nothing but okay, write down the address and you have to send some flowers to that particular address. He will tell, Ramu will tell to Venu. Next, what is the task of Venu? Now he has to send the bouquet to the Sweetie in Amirpet. So what he will do? He will tell the same thing to the gardener. Okay, so I need these particular flowers, so that please collect those flowers. So what gardener will do? The gardener name is Shiva. For example, what Shiva will do? He is going to pluck the flowers from the garden and he is going to give back the flowers to this florist. And what he will do? He is going to make it as a bouquet and he will send one person. He will send one person to deliver the bouquet to Sweetie in Amirpet. Okay, this is a small example. Why I am telling this example means, here we have to observe many things. So what is the task I have done here? First one, what is the task I have done? What task I have done is nothing but sending bouquet. Okay, sending, otherwise sending flowers, let us consider. Okay, so to do one particular task, here one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 persons are involved. Okay, to do one task, 6 persons are involved. So in this case, I am going to call them as a persons. In our object oriented programming, those are called as objects. Okay, what this object is going to do? This object is going to give the address to the florist. What this object is going to do? He is going to communicate to other florists. What this object is going to do? That means what, for each and every object there is some task to perform. Okay, right. What he is going to do? He is going to call him and tell him about the a bouquet where to send. Okay, what he is going to do? He is going to call the gardener to collect the flowers, and so on. That means for each and every object we are going to have some task. So here what happens, whenever some responsibility is given to this particular person, whenever Hari is coming and telling about the bouquet to send to this Ramu, what is the responsibility of this Ramu now? He has to send that. That means every time responsibility is going to be changed from one object to another object. Responsibility. Okay, responsibility. Next, see here, in which way this florist is going to send bouquet to this sweetie? Is it necessary to know by this Hari? No, it is not necessary. It is nothing but we can consider it as a method hiding. So whatever one person is going to do will not be known by other person. Okay. So these are the concepts we have to understand about object oriented programming. So see here, we can consider our real time example like this. Here each and every one is considered as what? An object. An object is having some task to perform. Okay, right. Now let us go to our concept. Okay, now see, first I want to talk about a class. So what is meant by a class means, if I am going to take one small example called as fruit. So fruit I am going to take. What fruit is going to have? It is having some taste. It is having some color. It is having some shape. For example, I am going to take these three properties. So tell me some names of a fruits. Just what you will say: apple. You will say apple, orange, and for example, pomegranate. Okay. So these are the fruits you are going to tell me. If I ask you fruit, why you are telling apple, orange, and pomegranate? Because this apple is having these three properties. Next, why you are calling orange as a fruit? Because this orange is having these three properties. Why you are calling pomegranate as a fruit? Because this pomegranate is having the properties of fruit. So these are called as what? Objects. But what is meant by a fruit? Fruit is not existing. It is not existed in real world. Just it is having some properties. What are those properties? Taste, color, and shape. So those who are acquiring these properties, those who are having these properties, they are called as fruits. Okay, that means class contains properties. Class is going to contain what? Some properties. Okay, and these are going to do what? These are created by using these properties. So these are called as objects, and this is called as what? Class. So observe, now you have to understand this example. That example is, whenever we are going to consider a fruit is not going to exist in real world. Okay, it is having some properties like taste, color, and shape. So when we are going to call something as a fruit, when it is having all the properties of fruit, then we are calling this one as a fruit. Apple is a fruit, and orange is a fruit, pomegranate is a fruit. Why you are saying all these as a fruits? Because these three objects are going to acquire the properties of this fruit, so we are calling these three as fruits. Next, for example, I am taking one more example. So here three persons are there, for example. Okay, so names of these three persons are A, B, C. Let us take two more persons, D and E. Okay, here these are four persons. So one is faculty, another one is plumber, another one is painter. Observe this carefully. What these faculty properties having? What faculty will do? Faculty will teach. Okay, faculty will do some work. Do work. For example, I am telling, do some project work. Okay, project. It's what plumber will do, fitting work. Okay, and he will fit the taps. Otherwise, we can say some pipe work, for example. These two works he is going to do. And what painter will do? He will paint and he will color, for example. Okay, these are the properties. Now, what I am saying, A can teach and he can do project. If he can do these two things, what will I call this one as? Faculty. Why I am calling this particular A as a faculty? Because he is having the properties of faculty class. So this object is called as what? Faculty object. In the same way, the same B is having properties like teaching and do project. So this is also called as what? This is also called as object. Which object it is? Faculty object. How I can say it as a faculty object? Because the properties that are with faculty is going to be acquired by this one, this object. So it is called as what? Faculty. Next, C is having the properties of, C is an object which is having fitting work and some pipe work. So now observe here, what C can do? C can do fitting work and pipe work. We will call him as a what? Plumber. That means what? This C is going to have the properties of a class called as plumber. Now these two are nothing but these two can paint and color. That means what? These two can be called as painter. That means these two are of type what? Painter. Now here A is what? Faculty. How we can see him as a faculty? Because he is having the properties of that class. B is what? B is also a faculty because B is also having the properties of faculty. In the same way, C is having which properties? Fitting and piping work, pipe work. So whose properties these are? These are plumber properties. So C is what? A plumber object. In the same way, D, E are painter object, painter objects. Now here what we have to understand means faculty means you will show A, faculty means you will show B. Next, plumber means you will show C, painter means you will show D and E. That means there is no existence for faculty. Faculty means there are only properties. Plumber means there are only properties. Painter means there are only properties. In real time, these are not existed. Okay. Now, who is existing in real time? These are called as objects. Object is nothing but, as we know in your physics, what is meant by an object? Which covers some space, so if I consider pen is an object, fan is an object, person is an object, everything is an object which is going to cover some space, because pen is having some space, it is going to cover some space, fan is having some space, person is having some space, and so on. These are called as what? Objects in our physics, according to the physics. But according to our Python or object oriented programming, what is meant by an object means which is having some memory. Okay, which is having some memory, and each and every, if we are calling anything as an object, it should have some properties of any class. If it is an object, then we have to ask what? Which object it is. So which object it is? It is having which properties? Teaching and do project. So it is which object? Faculty object. So this is about class and object. Now how this object is created? Based on this faculty structure it is created, because whatever the faculty is having, he is having the same thing. What is this one? He is what is B having? Whatever the faculty having, B is also having same thing. That means these two are created based on this faculty class. Okay, so I will give you the technical definition of this class and object now. So before that also I will take one more example, because I want to make you clarity on these classes and objects. So now I want to construct a building. I want to construct two buildings, for example. Two buildings I want to construct. Two buildings. Now before going to construct, what we will do? We are going to make a plan. Okay, this is a plan. So here 1, 3, 4, for each and every floor I have to construct a three separate houses, for example, three separate flats I have to construct. So first I have to do what? Plan. So this plan is what? This is not in existence. This is just it is a plan. So based on this plan, what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a building. So building is created by using which plan? This plan. That means this is constructed based on this one. So generally we will call this plan as what? Blueprint. Blueprint for creating what? For constructing a building. Okay. So in the same way, in our concept, class is a blueprint for creating what? Object. If object is there, compulsory there should be some class for that particular object. Okay. So how this object is going to be constructed or created? By using the classes. Okay. So I can call this class as a blueprint. Blueprint for an object. Okay. Now one small example. Here blueprint is there. So here one first building is constructed. Can't I construct second building with the same plan? Yes, I can construct. Can't I construct third building with the same plan? Yes, I can construct. There is no problem. That means once if you are having a class, that class can be used to construct n number of objects. Now, so this is what I'm giving some numbers. First building, second building, third building, and so on. Some 100th building also I have constructed with the same plan. Now here this object is created with what? By using a class. And next object 2 is created, object 3 is created. So based on this class, these objects are going to be created, so that I can call these objects as instance of a class. Instance of a class. Okay, these two are very important points. So first point what we have to understand is what? Class is a blueprint for an object, because based on this blueprint only object is created. Okay, then coming to the object, object is one of the instance. One of the instance. This is what? This is one instance, this is one instance, this is one instance. So these are called as what? Instances. Instances of whom? This class. So we can call object as an instance of a class also. So sometimes object can be replaced with a name called as instance also. Instead of calling object, we will call instance. Okay, these are interchangeable. Words are interchangeable. Object can also be called as instance. Instance is nothing but what? Object. Okay, right. Why this concept is very important means why object oriented programming is very important means, so I think here you have understood about class and objects. Class is what? Blueprint for an object. Object is what? Instance of a class. Now, why we are coming for this object oriented programming? Reason is everything in Python, everything in Python is an object. Everything in Python is an object. So if it is an object, we have to understand about objects. So if you want to understand about an objects, we should have some classes. So when we are discussing about these classes and objects, when we are coming for the concept of object oriented programming, so to create objects, what we require? We require some class. Why? The class can be act as what? Blueprint for creating an object. So class definition is what? Class is a blueprint, or we can say many definitions, like a, okay, blueprint I will take here, blueprint for an object. Okay, next, if you are going to consider an object, what is an object? Object is instance of a class. Instance of a class. So these are the statements you have to remember compulsory. Now the thing is, what class contains? First point is what class contains. So a class is going to have, see here, I am going to take one class here. For representing a class, I have to use a keyword called as class in small letters. So here inside this class, for example, I'm going to write some name called as A. Inside this class, what we can have, that is the concept we have to see now. So if I'm going to consider a plumber, okay, just for an example, a plumber, what he is going to do? He is going to do a work called as fitting work, and he is going to do some other work called as repair work. For example, I'm telling these two are what? A works. Okay, that means what? We can write a group of code. That means fitting is nothing but what? He has to do some process. Okay, that means what? It is a process. It is also some process. So the process, that is that group of statements are going to be written inside a something called as a method. So methods will be present, and he is going to fit something by using what? Some wrench, for example, and some other screwdriver, for example, I'm taking. Okay. So these are the two things he is going to use to do fitting work and repair work. Okay. That means what? Plumber is a class. Plumber is a class. What he can do? He can do fitting work and repair work by using what? Wrench and screwdriver. Okay. That means in our, if I consider the same thing for our class A, what this class is going to do, we have to write them as a methods. Okay. M1, M2, like a methods. Next, these methods can use what? Whatever the data we are going to write inside this class. Let us consider A equal to 10, B equal to 20. Like here, by using this equipment, these two are going to be executed. In the same way, by using these two, our methods are going to be executed. So this is a class mainly contains what? Methods and variables. So now I want to talk about methods. So what is meant by a method? Okay, so already we know what is meant by a function. Same concept. Method is same as, sorry, function is same as method, except one thing. If you are going to write a function inside a class, function inside a class, then it is called as what? Method. If you are writing a method outside of the class, then it is called as a function. Everything will be same. How to define that? By using a def keyword. Everything will be same. That means what? In a class we can have what? That means what we can say, what are the properties of this class A? Properties can be variables or properties can be methods. Why we are calling this one as a method? Generally we will call, till now we have called this one as an function. Why we are calling now it as a method? Reason is, this is the function is written inside a class, so we are calling that one as a method. So what method is going to do? It is performing something, or we can say some action. So it is performing some action. Okay, performing some action. So by using what it is going to perform? By using this data. Okay, for executing a method we require some data. Okay, so hence what we can say here, class contains both variables and methods. Okay, right, this is about the concept of in some cases they generally, if you see somewhere some textbooks or anything, properties means they will take only variables. Okay, don't no need of confusing here. Just you have to think what a class contains: two things, mainly two things. First one is methods, second one is data. Okay, what is use of these methods? It will execute, it will perform some task like a functions. What is the use of this data? If you want to perform these functions, we will use this data. Okay, if you want to perform this task, I will use this data. This data and methods are written inside a class. Okay, right. Now let us go to the concept of how to create a class or how to define a class. So here I am going to write what? Defining a class. Define a class. So how we are going to define means, so we are having a keyword called as class. Class is a keyword. So beside that we are have to write some class name. So class name has to be written. After that we have to write colon. So whatever the things we have to write inside this class, where we have to write, from here we have to write, after tab space we have to write. That means inside this what we will write generally, method 1. So in method 1 we are having some statements, those things has to be written here. Otherwise here some data is there, A equal to 10 and B equal to 20. So how these are going to be declared, I will explain. Okay, but what we have to understand here, data will be there and methods are going to be present in our classes. So already you know about doc strings. Doc string means what? Documentation strings that can be used here. Doc strings can be written here. So what is the use of these doc strings? Doc strings are used to define something about the class. Here, why I am writing here doc strings? Reason is what? To explain the about this class. I will write something, some statement inside here. So there is no effect here. That means whatever the statements we are going to write as a doc string, your JVM is not going to consider that one. Okay, just it is an explanation. Okay, now Already we know about these documentation strings. Generally, why it is going to be used? Doc string represent description of that class. It is not compulsory. Whatever the thing you want to write in the doc string, generally we can write it. Okay. So within the class, doc string is always an optional. It is not compulsory. We have to remember this point. So always we have to remember one point, that it is not compulsory to write a doc string, but it is recommended to write a doc string. Reason is, if you are going to write a doc string for a function or for a class, it is easy to understand what that particular class is going to contain. So by studying that doc string, we can understand, okay, this program is about some student information, or this data is about some employee, or this data is about some college, or this class is some about some company, software company. In this way, we can understand easily if you are going to write some description about that particular class. Now, so if you want to see this doc string, how to print that doc string in your program? So it can be done in two ways. That means your doc string, if you want to print the whatever the description we are having in the doc string, I can perform it in two ways. Mainly we will use only one way. Anyway, I will show you that. Print class dot underscore underscore doc. It will give you what already we have seen this concept. It is going to give you about the documentation string of that particular class. Now just I will go to a small case and I will write a small class and I will write a description. Class student. Generally we will write class name with a capital letters. Okay, is it compulsory? It is not compulsory. But if you are going to see any inbuilt class, those are going to be started with a capital letters. So here what I am going to do, here just I want to write some documentation string like this is a program, this is a program about student information. I am going to write here information. Okay, now observe here. After this I am going to write what? Just I want to write some print statement. Print hi I am going to write here. Now my program is completed here, and now I want to print doc string. That means what? This is a program, this is a program about student information I want to print. Just I have to use what? Print of class name. I have to write what is the class name here? Student. So here doc string generally will have what? 3. Okay, sorry, here I have to place 3 single quotes or 3 double quotes. Right. Now observe here what I'm going to write here. Print of class name is what? Student. Student dot underscore underscore doc underscore underscore. Now just I will execute this program so that you can understand what will be the output of this program. See here what it is going to print. This is a program about student information is going to be printed. Okay. Now let us see another way. Print of I am going to write, otherwise okay, I will save this one here. I will go on to this one directly. I will execute here. Help of I will write student. Class name I have to write here. So it is going to give me what? Information about that particular description about that particular class. See that what it is going to give? Class something is there here. See here it is going to give me a documentation about that particular program. This is a program about student information. So in this way we can get the documentation string of that particular program. So what is the use of this documentation string? So we can understand before going to analyze the program. If you understand what is the scenario, what is the program about, it is easy to understand any program. Okay, without knowing that, if you're going to enter into that program, you cannot understand such easily. Okay, so that if you study some documentation about the particular program or a class, it is easy to understand. For that, how to write the documentation strings already we have discussed. Now we have seen a small example for the documentation strings. Okay, right. This is about a documentation strings that are going to be written inside our classes. Now, so basic concept is what? Class contains two things. One is variables, and another one is methods. Two things it is going to contain. So first one is, what is a variable? Already you know. What is a method? We know already. So what are the different type of variables we have to see here now? Okay, what is the need of a variable here? So variable is used to store the data. What is the use of a method? This method is going to perform some task by using these variables inside a class. Okay, so first let us see what are the different type of variables we are having. So first variable is going to be called as instance variable. So first we have to understand in detail about variables and methods, so that if you go to any program which is having a classes, how to access these variables, how to call the method, how to initialize the variables inside a class. Okay, all these things you can understand if you understand the concept of variables and methods. So first one is what? Instance variables. Next, second one is static variables. Static variables. And third one, we are having local variables. Same, if you see in Java also, same thing we can find. Instance variables, local variables, and static variables we are going to have. Here also in Python we are having what? Three types of variables we are going to have. One is instance variables, second one is static variables, and third one is local variables. What is meant by these variables? Briefly I will explain now, but we have to discuss in detail about these variables. Okay, so after completing all the basics, I will discuss about variables in detail. Now, for now, I am telling what instance variable means. We can call it as a object level variables. You may have some doubts, sir, why we are calling this one as a object level variables. Reason is there, I will explain that later. Next, static variable can be considered as class level. And next, this can be local variables, can be called as block level. But what we are talking about a class. Inside a class where local variables will be there generally in methods. Okay, so we can call it as what? Method level. Okay, we can have inside any for loop or if loop also these local variables, but generally we are talking about a class, so that whenever we are talking about object oriented programming, based on that I am talking about variables. One is what? Object level variables. Next one is class level variables. Next one is method level, that is nothing but local variables. Okay, so how this is about data. What about methods? That means what? If you want to perform any action inside a class, for that I require what? Methods. So how many different type of methods are the same here also? Instance methods, instance methods. Next one is static methods. Next one, third one is we are having a class methods. Okay, some class methods. So these are the basic things first we have to understand. So what are those? First one is variables of three types we are having in Python. First one is instance variables, static variables, and local variables. In the same way, methods we are having three types: instance methods, static methods, and class methods. So these are the basic things we have to understand. So before going to write any program, we should also know about a concept called as constructor. Constructors we have to understand. So if you know about these three, that is what? About variables, methods, and constructors, we can go for our object oriented programming concept. Right, now let us see how to create a class. This is about basics of object. What are the things that are present inside a class? How to create a class we have seen. Now how to create a class name. See, already we have seen that class name. Inside a column we have to place here. After this, what we have to write? Data we can write, or methods we can write in this class. Okay, so we have created. So let us consider in this class I'm having some data a b. For example, I'm writing a b, method m1 m2 we are having. What is the use of having this one? Okay, let us see that one now. If faculty is there, what are the properties of what are the functionalities of this faculty? What he will do? The task he can do is what? Teaching, and like let us say doing projects. For example, I'm telling doing projects. These two are faculty actions, what he is going teaching and doing project. So who is going to teach? One of the faculty object, that is for example Shiva is what? A faculty object. He will do teaching, he will do project. Okay, that means I require what? I have written functionalities here. I have written what? Functionality m1, functionality m2. So who will execute these things? Okay, that is the concept now I want to discuss. So already some properties are available in faculty. So who will do this task? those who are going to have that properties. So if teaching is Shiva is there, is he faculty? I don't know. How I can know it? If he is the object of faculty type, then he can teach, then he can do the project. That means what? Now we have to see about how to create an object. Okay, how to create an object. That means what? Class is not going to be existed in real world, just it is an illusion, or some properties will be there. Is physically it is not going to have any memory in our runtime in Python. So what is having a memory in our Python means object is going to existed. That means what? It is we can consider as what? Object is having physical existence. Okay, object is having what? Physical existence, so that it can perform anything. Okay, right. So how to create an object? Observe carefully. We have to write a class name. We have to write what? Class name, open bracket and closed bracket. Okay, let us take faculty class. If I write faculty, open bracket, closed bracket, that means what? This is a faculty object. So one memory space will be created for that faculty object, and the properties, the methods and data that is present inside this class are available to this one now. There is nothing but what? Teaching. This is one method. For example, doing projects, it is second one. Okay, this is second method. So now if I want to access these two, I require some name for this one, or we can call it as a reference. So what I will write, whenever I am going to create an object, I will write the reference also. So otherwise here I will write what? Shiva I will write. Okay, now see, SIVA equal to faculty. This indicates what? An object is created and it is referring by Shiva. Now Shiva is nothing but what? It is referring to an object called as faculty. If I want to call this teaching method, how I can call? It is pointing by Shiva. I can call Shiva dot teaching. Okay, so it will be executed. Next, if I want to do projects, how I have to call? Shiva dot do projects. In that way, I have to execute. That means what? For creating an object, I require a class. Whenever I'm going to create an object, then the properties of that class will be available for this object also. So to access the members of that class, we require a reference, or we can call generally a name for that one, so that I am going to keep some reference to that particular object. Object is nothing but what? It is going to have some memory. So, or we can say it is having some physical existence. It is called as a what? Object. So how to create an object? Here we have to have what? We should have some reference. A reference we should have here, or we can call it as a reference variable. We can call this variable as what? Reference variable, and this is what? Object. So by writing this one, we are going to create an object. So this is about what is meant by an object, how to create an object. So what is meant by reference variable? So the variable, see here, this variable which is going to refer the object. So the Shiva is referring this object. So the Shiva is called as what? A reference variable. So it is referring to someone. So this is called as what? Reference variable. So how to access the members of an object? By using this reference variable. Without this reference variable, I cannot access anything here. So compulsory I should have some reference variable. So that by using that I can access these methods. Now I will take a small example where I will show you all the basic concept that we have discussed till now. Okay, just I will go to program, small program I will take. There is nothing but I want to take the information of a student. So here I will write what is the name, the student name. So here what I want to perform, here I want to take the student details. So for student details, let us take some data I want to take. So remember one point, if you want to take data for the class, we can do it in some places. I will discuss that concept later when I am discussing about variables concept. For an instance, I am going to take a constructor. So I will take the constructor concept also in next session. So for now, I am going to take self. Okay, we'll see about this one in next sessions. Name, comma, roll number. Next, I'm going to take marks of a student, and I'm going to take age also. So here I want to know the details of, I want to initialize the student details like name, roll number, marks, and age. Okay, right. Now, self dot, what is meant by self, how it is going to act, we will see it. Self dot name, that means for this student, is there any data now? Not there. Now I am creating it. Self dot name equal to name. Next, self dot roll number, roll number equal to roll number. After that, self dot marks, self dot marks equal to marks. Okay, now self dot age equal to age. Now observe here, name, these name, roll number, marks, and age are nothing but the variables of the student. Okay, right. Next, what I want to do, this is a constructor. Now I want to perform some operation. That is nothing but I want to perform some action. So that action is going to perform in where? Inside a method. So method is nothing but what? A function that is going to be written inside a class. So define, I want to do what? I want to read the values. So just I am going to take the, otherwise I want to print the values. Just I have taken and I will print the values. Print values I am going to take. Print values I am going to take here. What are the values? What are the values I have to take here? The values of a student. Which student? I will explain now. So inside this compulsory we should have one parameter, that is self. Okay, I will tell you what is meant by the self in next session. Okay, now here just I want to do what? Print. What I will say, name is there here. Name is. Just I will write name is. Okay, so name will be printed. Just here I have to write what? Self dot name. So self dot name here I have to write. Now see. Next, what I want to print? Next, I want to print roll number, and I also want to print what? Marks and age also. So just I write here. So self dot roll number. So here I will write roll number. Roll number I will write where it is, inside a self dot roll number. Next, third one is what? Marks I want to print. Just here I will write marks are. Okay, where it is, inside a self dot marks. Right. Next one I want to print age. Self dot age. Now see, now observe the program clearly. I am having how many variables? 4 variables: name, roll number, marks, and age. And I'm having only one method called as print values. Now see and observe carefully here. What I am going to do here, I want to create an object of type student. What I have to do? Just I am going to write student S, or I will take 2 or 3 students. So that S1 equal to class name I have to write. So while I am going to take in this way, what happens means, just I will write here. See, 1 minute, I will change the color here. Okay. Okay, anyway, I will take a student. Okay, anyway, I will take here. Okay, the name of this one is what? It is referred by S1. So here we can understand what this is, which type? Student type. Student type means what? Here all these things has to be present here. So whenever I am going to create a student, here some constructor is there. This is called as a constructor. Here how many parameters are there? First parameter, second parameter, third parameter, and 4 parameters are there. So whenever I am creating a student object, I have to pass these 4 values. So I will take first name I have to pass. Name is Shiva, I am going to pass. Next, roll number is 50, I am going to write, and marks are some 65 marks I am going to take, and age is some 30 I am going to take here. Now what happens whenever this object is going to be created? It is going to refer by what? It is going to refer by S1, and these values are going to be passed to where? Name and age is a roll number, marks, and the age. Okay. Now what is meant by this self? We have to understand about this self. On creating which object? We are coming to this constructor S1. So this self is acting as a S1 now. That means this object, not only S1, this object, let us consider this object. So self is nothing but what? This object. In this object, what I'm creating, name is there. Next one is what? Roll number is there. After that, I'm having what? Marks I am having. And last one, I'm having what? Age also I'm having. And also one more method called as print values are there. Inside this one only, what is there? Print values. Now observe, what I am passing, Shiva is available in name. That name, this is nothing but Shiva. Shiva is storing in where? Self dot name. Self means what? S1. S1 dot name. That means here it is name will be Shiva. Next, roll number is what? 50. In this roll number 50 is present, and this roll number is assigning to self dot roll number. Self means what? S1. S1 dot roll number equal to roll number. Roll number is 50. So S1 dot roll number equal to 50. So here we are going to have what? 50. In the same way, marks. So self dot marks. That means this is going to be highlighted. Next, in that, what I am storing marks. What is the marks I have passed to that? 65. So here we are going to get 65. And after that, self dot age. Age I have passed was 30. So age is 30 and I am placing in self dot age. Self is nothing but what? S1 now. In this way, when I am going to execute this statement, it will be done. Okay. Next concept, if I am going to next line, that means I want to create a second object. S2 equal to same thing, student. I want to create one more object, that is Ram. And here what I want to do, I want to keep the roll number as 60 and the marks as 90 and age is 35, for example. Now what happens here? Also S2 is which object? S2 is student object. So what happens? Once again, object will be created and it is pointing by which reference? S2. Okay. Now in this, what happens? He is passing what? Ram, 60, 90 and 35. So now on creating which object we are going on creating which object we are coming to this constructor S2. So now self becomes what? S2. This is what? S2. Now self dot name means S2 dot name. That means here name will be there. Next, roll number will be there. Next, what will be there? Marks. And last one is age will be there. So whatever the values we are passing here, for name, Ram will be there. For roll number, 60 will be there. For marks, 90 will be there. For age, 35 will be there. And this name is assigned to what? Self dot name. So inside name, what we are having? Ram is there because I have passed here. So the name Ram is going to assign to self dot name. Self is what? S2. S2 dot name is nothing but what? This one, equal to Ram. So why here self is changing every time? Because self is nothing but if whenever an object is calling this constructor, that will become a this. Okay, for example, that will become a self. For this, this is the same as this in Java. If you know about Java, this acts as the same as this in Java, this keyword. So for example, so here observe here, this is Shiva. Okay, he is only the available thing now. We are talking about him. What he will talk about? Myself. He will talk what? Myself. Okay, in interview what he will say? Myself Shiva. In the same way, next one more person will come to the same interview, Ram. He also will say, tell what? Myself. That means what? Here self means what? About him. Here self means what? About him. That means if you're talking about Shiva, self means Shiva. Here if you're talking about self means Ram. That means the current object is going to be pointed here. We are talking about current object. Here, what is the current object that is going to be created? S1. So whenever we are creating this object, self will become what? S1. Whenever we are creating S2, self will become what? S2. Okay, so that here we are going to assign the values. R2 equal to what? R2, sorry, roll number equal to what? 60. Marks equal to 90 and age equal to 35. Okay, and see here we are having what? Print values method here also. Because why we are having here also print value method? Reason is it is also which object? Student object only. Whatever the methods and whatever the data that is present inside a student class will be available to its objects. S1 is that object, S2 is the student object only, because those are created. See here, you can observe here. So S1 is which object? Is pointing to which object? Student. S2 is pointing to which object? Student. Okay, now the concept is how to call these data and methods. See here, where these are present inside S2. S2 dot name, we will get output as this one. S2 dot roll number, we will get 60. S2 dot marks means 90. S2 dot age means 35. Now I want to call this method now. How to call that one? S2 dot, observe carefully, print values. Okay, this is one method. In the same way, S1 want to print something. So in S1 also it is available. So it will call what? S1 dot print values. So now what happens? S1 is calling print values and S2 is also calling print values. Can it call print values or not? Yes, it can call. Reason is what? S2 is which type? Student type. S1 is which type? Student type. So if it is student type, it can call this print values. If these two objects are not student type, it cannot call. For example, see here. This is my home. This is Raju's home, for example. This is whose home? Raju's home. So if you want to access, if he want to access anything, if someone, for example, some person is there, observe careful, some person, I will not tell the name of this person, some person is there. So here some gold is there and some money is there inside a house. For example, inside some house, gold is there and money is there here. Who can access this gold and money? So who can access this gold and money means those who are belonging to this house only can access this gold and money. For example, I am telling Raju is belonging to this house, then he can access gold and money. For example, Shiva is there. Shiva is not belonging to this house. Can he access this gold and money? No. Who can access this one here? Only the particular members. That means the house members only can access here. In the same way, who can access the members of a class? Only the objects of the particular class. So S1 is object of student, S2 is object of student. So whatever the class members it is having, this S1 and S2 can access. So for each and every object, separate copies will be created. Don't worry about this concept. We will see about this concept in next session. For now, just let us execute this program. Now we have to understand what in S1 what we are having. So in S1, name means Shiva, roll number means 50, marks means 65, age means 30. In S1, S2 means what? Ram 60, 90, 35. Okay. Now observe carefully. Now I'm going to execute this program. Okay. So what I have to take here, just I want to, after whenever the values are going, the objects are going to be created, these values are going to be stored in those objects. Just I want to see those objects. For that, I am going to call a method called as, who is calling S1 dot print values. S1 dot print values. Who is calling? Observe carefully. Who is calling? S1 is calling. If S1 is calling this one, self becomes what? Self becomes S1. Name is, in self, what is the name? Shiva. Roll number is, self dot roll number means, self dot roll number means what? S1 dot, who is calling this one? Self is nothing but what? S1. S1 dot roll number will be printed 50. Next, S1 self dot marks. That means what? S1 dot marks. What is S1 marks? 65. Age is self dot age. S1 dot age. Self means what here? S1. S1 dot age is nothing but what? 30. Next, this is completed. Now these values are going to be printed. Next, S2 is going to call. S2 is going to call what? Print values. Okay, I think values it is. Okay, values. So now we are calling this method. So now who is calling print values method? S2 is calling print values. That means who will become the self? The self is S2. The self is going to be S2. Now name is self dot name. That is nothing but what? S2 dot name. Okay. S2 dot name means what? Ram. S2 dot roll number means some roll number is 60. S2 dot marks. Some marks are there 90. S2 dot age 35. Now let us execute this program. So see what is the output. First output is what? This is about Shiva data. This is up to here, and this is about second object data. So we have to observe carefully. Once again, briefly, I'm explaining how this is going to be done. So first, class is there. What is the class name here? Student. Student containing what? Variables called as name, roll number, marks, and age. So, and one more method called as print values. So it just is going to print the values. Whenever I'm going to create an object, I'm initializing some values to that object by using the concept of constructor. So whenever object is created, the data is present here. Okay, and also one method is called as print values is present here. Completed. Next, what about this S2? Whenever I'm creating S2, some object is created and here the data is going to be inserted. and the data is going to be created here. And here also we are having what? Print values method is there. So who can call this method? S2. Who can call this method? S1. Okay. So S1 dot print values. So who is calling this method? This method is called by S1. So self will become what? S1. So the details of S1 will be printed because self, I have written here self. Self means what now? S1. So S1 dot name, S1 dot roll number, S1 dot marks, S1 dot age is printed. Completed. This method is completed. The control comes back to here now. S2 dot print values. S2 dot print value means what? Who is calling this method? S2. Self becomes what now? S2. So name is S2 dot name. That is what? Some RAM. S2 dot roll number, S2 dot marks, S2 dot age will be printed. So compulsory we have to understand what? In object oriented programming, class will contain what? Some variables and some methods and data we can consider. So to access those methods and data, I require what? Methods. Sorry, to access that methods and data, we require what? Objects. So for by creating an object, we can access the members of a class. Okay. So in next session, we will see in detail about what is meant by this constructor, what is meant by this constructor, what is meant by this self, what are the different type of variables we are going to have, and next we are going to see about what are the methods we are having in detail. Okay. Thank you.